Okay, back with Godzilla 1993 KX500 project, converting it over to a front and rear KX450. We go over the foot pegs. We are converting it over to the 450 removable foot pegs, mounts, and foot pegs. So, a couple things. First thing to start out, didn't do it here, took this to the shop on a welding table. Very, very important that you mount it on a hard object, whatever, screw it to a bench, whatever you do, it cannot move when you jig up these foot pegs. So what we did, took it to the shop, clamped it down, and then welded pieces from the table to here so it absolutely couldn't move to jig up the foot pegs. So left the stock pegs on the bike, the stock pegs here, then marked exactly where the dead center and the outside edge of the foot peg were on both sides. In other words, where we could replicate exactly the angle, the height, up and down, forward and back, and this angle. Now, one thing I did to get the angle was I used one of these fancy little, it's a pinion angle finder. It's literally for the race car to find out where the angle is. Can't get it to start now. Anyways, battery's probably dead. But anyways, set this on the foot peg and it would give you a reading. So I set this on the stock foot peg because this setting flush on the ground is not exactly how the bike sits. The bike's got a different angle than that once it's sitting on the tires and suspension. So anyways, with the stock foot pegs, put this on there, measured it, I think it was like 0.03 or something down in the front. I don't remember exactly. But use that. You can use one of the magnetic pinion angle finders, or you can just, make measurements front to back and subtract the difference. But anyways, that's super, super important. It was for me because I do not want the foot pegs to be any further forward, back, up, down, whatever. I want it exactly like that. So we're going to use these mounts for a KX450. They are removable on both sides. Now these, I did do one thing. The KX450 uses a 10 millimeter bolt here and an 8 millimeter bolt at the bottom. So what I did is drilled them both out to 8, because what we're going to do is put inserts in the frame and they're both going to be 10 millimeter 1.25 thread. So once it was jigged up and we had our marks, and on the table basically we had all the marks and all the writing, not on this but on the welding table, and the exact measurements to the outside, to the front, to the back, and the angle. Once we have all those, then I mounted the foot pegs up like this, replicated them off the table, had them attached to the table, and this was up against a frame where I could mark where those holes needed to be to get all the angles correct. That was a little time consuming, but got them in the right place. And then once we had marked the holes, we drilled the frame. Use these. These are, I believe they're ARP threaded 10 millimeter 1.25, and they're grade 8. So these would push into the frame flush. You can actually see it pretty good right here on this side, right there. How that's put into the frame. Both of them you can see. Anyways, they went into the frame, and to get them in the exact right spot, we mocked it up like this. We bolted everything on here, set these, and obviously won't go in now, but with the holes in the frame, they pushed into the frame. Then we clamped this mount to the frame with the foot peg and everything on it to make sure, rechecked every single angle, everything was right, and then tacked the nuts. Put a tack weld on both sides of the nuts, unscrewed these bolts, then that left these two nuts in the frame. Okay, these were mounted into the frame, and whoa, let me get my fat finger out of the way. And they protruded out from this, obviously, when we welded them up. I'll insert some pictures. I've got pictures of all that, I believe. Got them in there, got them welded solid. Now we had two problems. One is the only contact area for the foot peg would be two of these nuts. In other words, it would only make a contact here and here. That ain't gonna work because of the weight of the rider on there twisting that mount is gonna come loose or break or whatever. So, and also this nut being welded into the frame is not super strong. That frame here is fairly thin, and just putting that nut in there and welding it, now you're trying to support on these two little flanges, and two little nuts are trying to support the entire weight of that rider as the bike's going up and down, bouncing, landing from jumps. Not going to work. So what I did to fix both those problems, I made these plates. And this plate is 3/16 mild steel, notched it all out. Once these were welded solid, then we laid the plates up there, welded them solid around here and around both nuts, and that's done on both sides. We'll look at the other side too. And that cured the problem. Number one, that makes that super strong. Now I'm not worried about these being twisted or flexing in the frame, and it gives a big contact area. Now that foot peg sits here, all the way down here, all the way around like that, has all this for contact area, holding it flush. I can lay it up there, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Now when they're in place, let's see, they have a lot of surface area there. So I was much more comfortable with that. And we're, of course, using these titanium RaceTech mounts, 450 mounts that we drilled out. Now, once all that was in place, bolted everything on it while it was still on the jig, made sure the foot pegs were correct. Now, one of the problems that comes up if you do this foot peg, once you get it bolted on there in all the stock locations, this foot peg is going to stick way up in the air like that. And the reason being is where this frame is kind of a vertical here, pretty flat. On the KX450, this is up, let's see if I can hold it in the air, and the frame kind of tilts in at the bottom, so that makes it flat. The frame kind of goes like this on the 450. On the 500, it's more straight up and down. So what I had to do is the back of these foot pegs, if you see this little tab, that's the stop where it hits down into here. I had to grind that to get the foot peg in the right place. So, and I left them, they have a little upward cant to them still. Kind of hard to see here, but they kind of are up on the end. That's really easy to fix. Once the bike's all together and sitting on the ground, I can sit on it, see what they feel like, see what they look like, pull the foot peg off and just take some more material off of there and keep dropping, taking the end of the foot peg and keep dropping it down till it's the right place. Now, two things. Keep in mind that when you're putting this big plate on here and the foot peg and this plate, now you're moving everything out. So these foot pegs are literally about 14.5, 15 millimeters wider this way, side to side, than the stock pegs. And this, the inside of this peg down here, let me get the camera on it. The inside of this peg is out 15 millimeters. So your feet aren't sitting exactly as close as they were. I don't think it'll be a big deal, but it may be a consideration for somebody who's a little better than me as far as riding, where that would make a difference. Anyways, we'll go look at the other side. The other side, obviously, the same basic process over here. This down here is that's just the roller mount, and then the 2 foot peg mounts. And you can see better on this side. You can see that nut where it's welded in the frame. And if you think about that, if this plate wasn't on there and that nut was just holding there was no way that would take that abuse. So put the plate on here. Now we got a whole lot of contact area on this side also. But anyways, that's pretty much it. It's a little involved, but I think it'll be worthwhile. If something gets bent or starts wearing out, I can unbolt them and bolt new ones on there. Although with what those titanium mounts and foot pegs cost, I sure hope I don't. That would suck. But anyways, that's where we're at. Any questions or comments, put them down below and I'll try and answer them if I see them. But anyways, once we get it all together and get the frame back from powder coating, I'll mount all the foot peg stuff on there, and then you can get a look at it on the bike. So I think it'll be a good plan, and I think it'll work out. All right, guys, any questions, just put it below and I'll try and answer. Thanks. Have a great day.